In this video, we're going to explore how to create animation in After Effects using keyframes. A keyframe records the value of any parameter on a layer at a specific point in time based on where the current time indicator is when you record that keyframe. To show you what I mean, we'll go ahead and create an animation where this balloon floats into the scene, and we'll create that animation using keyframes. To start, let's select layer 1 by clicking on the word balloon, and then go to the left side of the layer and click the arrow to open up the layer options. Click the arrow to the left of the word transform to open up its options, and you'll see we have several different parameters we can animate. I know I can animate them because I have a stopwatch to the left of each parameter. Now, since we want this object to move in the scene, we want to animate the position. If we look to the right of each of these parameters, we see blue numbers. The left number here is for the x-axis, which is the horizontal axis. And the right number here is for the y-axis, which will move the balloon up and down. So let's start by clicking and dragging by holding our mouse down, and we'll drag to the right directly over the y parameter and scrub until you see the balloon disappear off the bottom of the scene. Once it's disappeared, go back to the left side of the word position and click once on the stopwatch to add your first keyframe. Once you've created one keyframe clicking the stopwatch, you don't need to click the stopwatch any other time. All you need to do is move your current time indicator to a different frame. I want this balloon to float up into the scene over 2 seconds. So I'll click and drag on my current time indicator and move it to 2 seconds in the timeline. I can see it's at 2 seconds right here in the lower left corner of the composition panel or in the upper left corner of the timeline. Now, I'm at 2 seconds. Notice there's no keyframe. I need to change the position value to add another keyframe. This time, I'm going to hold down Shift, and then I'll click and drag on the Y parameter and drag to the left. Holding down Shift allows the object to move 10 times as fast as we click and drag or scrub on that value. Click and drag until the balloon floats up to a position you like. I set mine at a value of 547. Now notice I have this line that's appeared. This line is called the motion path, and I'll know that this balloon moves perfectly in a vertical fashion because that line is perfectly straight. In order to see a preview of the animation, I'll go ahead and press the space bar, and that will allow my current time indicator to move down the timeline and then go through the different frames to preview the animation. Notice how abruptly the balloon stops. That's because these keyframes are called linear keyframes. So I'll press the space bar to stop playback here. I know these keyframes are linear because they're diamond shaped. I want to change the interpolation of these keyframes, which will change the motion of the object between the two keyframes. To make sure both keyframes are selected, I'll go to the left side of the timeline here and click once on the word position. I'll know those keyframes are selected because they turn blue. Now I can right click on either one of the keyframes and go to the keyframe assistant and choose Easy Ease, which is going to change the interpolation. Now if I press the space bar, I can see a preview of my animation. And notice now the balloon is just floating up into the scene and it slowly resolves to its final resting position. I'll press the space bar one more time to stop playback. Now remember that line? If you look at the line, you'll notice there is a gray circle. If you click and drag on that circle, that will change the angle of the motion path. So I'm going to click and drag to the left so the balloon floats up to the left and then resolves back into this position. Now I'll press the space bar one more time to preview the animation, and you'll see the balloon floats in a different pattern and still resolves nicely because the keyframes are now set to ease. So keyframes are the primary method for creating animation in After Effects. And as you can see, once you create your keyframes, you can further adjust how things animate by adjusting the motion path or right-clicking on the keyframe to change the keyframe interpolation. In this video, we will be creating an animation where this little red car moves along the highway following a very specific path. We're going to make it stay in its lane. And as we create this animation, you'll see how paths can be translated into position data for any layer in an After Effects project. So to start, we need to actually create a path that goes along this road. Go down to the timeline and click once on the word background to select layer 4. Then go up to the tool panel and make sure you have the pen tool selected. If you don't see the pen tool here, click and hold and make sure to choose the pen tool. Now I'll go off the right hand side of the composition and click once to create an anchor point. Then I'll go right about here in the low point of the curve and click and drag holding the mouse down to get control handles. Now, I want to use as few points as possible to make this as smooth as possible with the different turns. So I'll go up to the top part of the next curve and click and drag to draw out really long handles here. And then I'll go way far off the left side here and just click once to add another point. Now, clearly we need to adjust this path. Let's start by clicking on this second anchor point here. Just click once and that'll get your handles. And click and drag on the left handle to extend that curve out so it better matches the edge of the road. And we'll do the same thing up here with this handle. Let's click and drag and kind of adjust things so that the path actually is going along the right lane. And sometimes, like in the case of this anchor, we'll need to just click on the anchor and reposition it completely to better reposition the path along the different lanes. So this looks pretty good. Now that we have our path created, let's go up to the tool panel and grab our selection tool. Then to select the mask, let's go down here and select layer 4 and press M to reveal the mask path. Click on the words mask path and then go up under edit and choose copy. Now, since I want the red car to go along this path, I'll select the red car layer, layer 1, and I'll press P to open its position data. Click on the word position, and then go up under the edit menu and choose paste. Notice we now have keyframes in here, and the animation is going to take place over 2 seconds. So this mask path has been translated into position data. Press the spacebar to preview the animation, and you'll see while the car is moving along the path, it's not turning along with the curves. So let's press the spacebar to stop playback and move the current time indicator to about 1 second in the timeline. All right, to make this orient along the path, I need to click once on layer 1 to make sure it's selected, then go up under the layer menu and go down to transform. Under the transform options, choose auto orient. We want it to orient along the path, so choose that option and click OK. Now the car is going to spin around, and that's because it wasn't perfectly straight when it was created inside of Illustrator. So let's press R to open up the rotation value of layer 1 and scrub on the rightmost parameter by clicking and dragging. And I'll rotate the car around till the headlights face to the left. And I know those are the headlights because they're a little larger than the taillights. Now I can press the spacebar and preview the animation, and you'll notice the car is moving along its lane and it's turning along the path. Now I'll press the spacebar one more time to stop playback because I want to show you if I need to change the duration of this animation, I can. So select layer 1 and press U to open any animated parameters. Now with the keyframes visible, let's make this animation take a little bit longer. I'll click on the rightmost keyframe and drag it to about 4 seconds in the timeline, and I know I'm at 4 seconds because I can see that up here in the info panel. Now, if I press the spacebar to preview the animation, you'll notice the car is moving much more slowly along the animation path, but it is staying in its lane. So as you can see, any path can be used to create position keyframes inside of After Effects. Sometimes when you create animation, using the typical linear keyframes or easy ease keyframes just won't cut it. It's those kinds of times when I look to create more dynamic movement by adjusting keyframes using the graph editor. If we look at our project here, you'll notice I already have a layer that's animated with 2 linear keyframes. I'll move my current time indicator back to frame 0 and press the spacebar so you can see how bland this animation actually is. Yes, technically it's fine. It slides in and stops, but it's linear and it's not very engaging. So I'll press the spacebar to stop playback. And to fix the linear nature and actually have this move in a more smooth fashion, I'll go ahead and click on the word position so that both keyframes are selected. And then I'll right click on either one of the keyframes and go to the keyframe assistant and choose Easy Ease. You can also press F9 on your keyboard as long as those keyframes are selected.